You're Dan for this. So this is a regularly.
Okay, so
You gotta start the meeting. Yeah, this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Facilities Committee. Present at the beginning of the meeting are Councilor Kelly from Ward 3, Councilor Danver from Ward 6, Councilor Getz from Ward 5, Councilor Leary from Ward 1, and online, do we have anybody? No. And so myself, Susan Albright from Ward 2. And we're being audio and video recorded, and we have present our committee clerk, Katie Holden. And I see John Daglian is here, as is Commissioner Shauna and Sullivan, sorry. And is there any other staff here? I think
Bernie McDonald.
Oh, Bernie McDonald is also here. Okay, so the first item, appointment of Daniel Manning to the Sustainable Materials Management Commission. Would you like to join us at the table? We can come sit here. So the only problem with sitting there is the folks on the screen. So come join us over here.
Okay.
So what we usually do with these appointments is we ask the person who's like yourself to just give us a few reasons why you'd like to join this commission.
Okay. You do that. First of all, nice to see everyone. Name's Dan Manning. I live on Cherry Street, Ward 3, Precinct 3.
I can request, I'm sorry to speak louder because it's hard to hear in the big room,
Okay,
so.
Okay. I applied to be a member of the Sustainable Materials Management Commission after meeting several of the members. Sunwoo Kang, who at the time was the chair, Alex Lee, the newest member, and Alan Gordon, the current chair. Because after I retired, I wanted to do some work in the community and saw this as an important opportunity. So I think the work of both the department and the commission are very important. And I read some of the materials, a 2021 report from the commission moving toward zero waste, 2017 report, I think by the department, along the same lines, the city council resolution promoting zero waste. So all those seem like very important goals, and I wanted to be part of it. I've been in Newton for 23 years, but until I retired, I really didn't directly participate in anything, and so this is a really good opportunity for many reasons: the environment, my grandchildren, the health of the community.
excellent. Thank you for that. So, yeah, Councilor Danver.
I won't move to approve since we have our Ward 3, illustrious Ward 3 compadre here. But I wanted to thank you for stepping up to the plate and volunteering for this very important committee. And where my daughter sits on the US Composting Council. So I'm one of the ones, many of us are very into the importance of the city stepping up its composting capability, and would very much like to see maybe start with a pilot program and then expand it to the entire city. We have Black Earth that does a wonderful job of picking up. They never missed a single pickup for us. And I would love to see Black Earth. I'm sure Black Earth would love to expand its offerings to the city. Or Black Earth or another company, because we certainly have to put it out to other companies also. But composting is something that I think needs to happen. There are no downsides to composting, and the city can either ship it out or do it in-house. But I would like to see that happen on your watch.
I'd like to participate in the effort to make that happen. I think it's very important. I know several members of the commission went to visit Black Earth,
Yes.
I think earlier this year. I wasn't able to join them, but they came back with a very positive report.
So before I call on the next person, I just want to say we've been joined by Councilor Gentile, who's the Ward 4 member of the committee. Councilor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just so pleased that Dan wants to participate. I've seen you on Zoom, because I attend those meetings
Yes.
frequently. I actually was one of the people that went to the Blackbird site. So we really, your help is great, is really appreciated, and your experience, and I look forward to working with you. So thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor?
Well, I'm happy to put a face to the name and to meet my neighbor. And I would be happy to move your appointment, but let me ask you a quick question very quickly. While you've been observing some of this, is there anything you particularly see that you would like to help spearhead or move forward that you don't think is being done now or as fully as it could be? Or focus, for instance, whether it's.
Well, I don't know if I would want to spearhead or even know where it fits on the agenda, but I live in a condominium, 14-unit condominium. And so we don't get curbside trash or recycling. And I know that there are problems with the company that we use. But I don't think there's a real direct oversight of that. I mean, the problem is, well, nominally there's one bin for recycling, two, there's supposed to be one for recycling and two for trash. It's all picked up by the same truck. So
Who's the hall outside?
it's called Waste Choice out of Somerville.
Tell them.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure you'll dig in once you.
So
Yeah.
that's just an issue that I became aware of personally, that was one of many that are important. And I know that the consultant that was hired to develop a propose a long-term solid waste management program is getting underway. And I think there's an important opportunity for the commission to work with that consultant on a range of issues.
Well, sometimes having personal experience with something helps lead you into an interest, so I look forward to hearing more from you, and I'm happy to make that motion to approve Dan unless anyone else wants to speak before. And we'll get to that.
Go ahead. So
Made. So moved.
So Councilor Kelly has moved approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? So that's unanimous. And what happens is we make the recommendation to the full council, which meets on April 7th, is our next meeting. And you don't need to be there.
I can if it's
Not
So
necessarily.
you're welcome to come watch.
Or you can watch it on new TV.
Okay,
So, and we thank you very much for your willingness to serve.
well, thank you again.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet everyone.
You're welcome to stay until the end of the meeting.
If you don't mind, I think I-
Go check your trash.
Okay. Our next item is 5625, and this is
Oh.
it.
We're swapping.
I think you're on, you need to put your mute on, Councilor Gentile. 5625, Betsy Harper, 19 Fairmont Ave, Newton, petitioning for a main drain extension that begins at an end of the lime drain manhole near number 16 and 17 Chapin Road. Extends approximately 482 feet easterly to the end of Chapin Road. This will provide a means for overflow connections to the proposed on-site infiltration system that was designed for the new dwellings. The overflow connections will be provided to dwellings along the proposed main drain extension. Who is presenting on this?
Good evening.
Mr. Daglian, is that you?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. So in 2023, the Border Survey approved a 3-lot subdivision, which created 2 new lots.
Wait
and-
1 second, I'm gonna turn up the sound. 1 second. Get it? Did it work? Well, try it again, John, and maybe speak a little louder, because we're not sure that we were able to.
Sure.
Yeah, his volume.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay, good. So in 2023, the Border Survey approved the 3-lot subdivision, which carved out 2 lots from the property off of 132 Homer Street. So the 2 lots that were created was this one here and this one down here. and they extended the road approximately 30 feet into the property. But when they did the testing for the groundwater is very shallow. It was only down about 24 inches. And in one case, the other one was about 20 inches. So that triggered the need for a drain main extension because they could not infiltrate 100% on their property. They're doing some minimal infiltration here along with phosphorus treatment, and they needed to do an drain main overflow connection. The closest drain manhole is down here between number 16 and 17 Chapman Road. So they will extend the 12-inch drain line approximately 500 feet to the subdivision itself. During the course of the public hearings, we had noticed that some houses had overflow connections right onto the front lawn because there's sump pumps. So we made a requirement that in addition to the main drain extension, the applicant put in service connections to the back of the sidewalks so that the folks could tie their sump pumps into those lines directly. That way it would prevent any icing on the road itself or just recirculating the water from the basement onto the ground and then back into the basement again. So as you see here, the light pink line is the main drain extension itself. And each one of these individual red lines will be stubs to the properties that have sump pumps. As the construction is going on, the contractor will be instructed to make coordination with the homeowner to make sure that these proposed locations are in alignment with where they would like to have their tie-in connected. The obligation of the applicant and his contractor is to put in the main drain and then just the stub lines from the main to the property line. There won't be any restriction on when the folks can tie in their property, their sump pumps, but the quicker they do it is to their benefit. And they would have to have an engineered plan to show us where the footprint of the house is and to ensure that they don't have oil heat, because if they have oil heat, then they would need an oil water separator prior to this connection to the drain main extension. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. One of the conditions that we would ask also that the line from the existing drain manhole in front of number 16 and 17 in this location towards the culvert be inspected via closed circuit television inspection before and after construction, so that if there's any obstructions or any damage to the existing pipe, they're not blamed for it, and vice versa. If they do cause any damage, they would be required to make the repairs. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You have a question for Mr. Dagler?
Yes. This is in Ward 6. I've been over there. And I think it would be a lovely location for these homes. One question that I have is that I remember a number of years ago when my son was rowing, he made a comment with a friend of his who lived on the street that they didn't have to go to the Charles River to practice rowing. They could practice right on Chapin. Is there a drain? Where is the nearest drain? This is a question for Mr. Daglian. And would it be possible for the city to pay to have a drain put in now that we've got a sewer extension that would improve the issue of flooding on that street for everyone?
So the applicant is applying for a drain extension, a stormwater drain main, not a sanitary sewer main.
Right, I know that, but I wouldn't, I'm not asking that the applicant pay to have a storm drain put in, and I'm wondering if the city would consider paying for having a storm drain put in, and can it be connected to that extension?
That's above my pay grade. I couldn't answer that myself. I think the commissioner is here online, but the applicant is doing this to the benefit of the neighborhood as well. So
Yes.
whatever drain manhole is being put in at the drain lines, there's also going to be a couple of catch basins that they're installing. And if those are installed and properly maintained, we think they should take care of any problems in the road.
Okay, so there are already catch basins that are in the plan to do this?
That's correct.
Oh, that's great. That's exactly, I think, what I was hoping to accomplish. And I do agree that this will be, of benefit to everyone on the street. This project.
Is there a timeline for when the sump pumps their stubs would be connected to the sump pumps? Is there any
No,
time?
there would not be a timeline restriction at all. Once the main is in, they would be putting the laterals, these red lines to the property lines as they're going along. And once it's stubbed out to the property, the homeowner can contract someone to make the connection from the stub connection to the pump. But we need a site plan that shows the footprint of the house where the sump pump would discharge with its force main coming out. And there would be a gravity connection made at the end of the stub. So they wouldn't be pumping directly into this stub. There would be a gravity connection, so it's all gravity fed.
Let's see. And any other questions? I'm gonna come to the public in 1 second. Is there any other question before I open the public hearing?
Mr. Scruton has come up. Is he mentioned
Huh?
for this project? Oh, that's someone else.
Yeah. A member of the public. So why don't I open the public hearing?
Yeah.
So let me open the public hearing. I saw this lady over here first, so I'm gonna start at this end and come around. Yeah, so would you like, when you speak, just give us your name and address.
Diane Finkelstein on 50 Chapin Road, which is about one house away from the end of the street where this property is. I'm confused as to why an individual property owner would have to pay for drainage all the way down the street when it's to the benefit of all the residents on Chapin, and it's a pretty expensive thing for an individual to have to pay for. I mean, I'm assuming that when my house was built, nobody had to pay to go all the way out to Pleasant Street.
So are you asking why is the petitioner having to do this?
Why doesn't the city pick up the cost of the extension along Chapin Road?
Mr. Dagley, can you answer that?
Sure, because the site does not have conducive soils for infiltration into their stormwater. The Board of Survey made it a condition that if they were to get approval for the 3-lot subdivision, they would have to extend the drain main to pick up the runoff from their property and then take care of all the sump pumps that would be associated from the neighboring properties. And the applicant at that time agreed to that.
The Board of Survey that set that as a condition.
Yes, it's in the certificate of approval.
Is that really common in the city of Newton, that kind of?
Typically, it's a sewer main that's got to get extended. Sometimes we have like dead end streets that don't have sewer going all the way down to the end of the road, but there is drainage. In this case, it's the opposite. We have the sewer that comes all the way down to the end of the road, which is right here where my cursor is. But the drain stopped 500 feet to the west.
Thank you.
Now, someone's, tell us your name and address first.
My name is Lori Berenstein. I'm at 55 Chapin Road. And you had mentioned something about oil heat and I didn't catch all that.
Yes, so if a property owner has oil heating in their home, more than likely they have either an underground oil tank or an oil tank in the basement. The concern is that if there's a sump pump in the house and if the oil tank were ever to rupture or to leak, that oil could get into the sump pump and get discharged out to the drain line. So to prevent that from happening, the homeowner would have to have a oil water separator put on their property prior to the connection to the drain main. That way the drain stays clean and the oil stay in that chamber and it's taken care of by a contractor that does waste oil collection.
And that would be something the homeowner would pay.
That's correct.
Now, sir?
Yep, thanks.
And what's your?
Hi, my name is Avi Muslino. My wife here is Naomi, my better half. And we live on 24 Chapin Road. First, if I can just mention a procedurally matter, we just got the letter actually about just 5 days ago. And, I'm a physician. I don't always open snail mail every day. So I don't think that's the appropriate kind of time interval to get these notices. didn't give us much time to prepare, so, but we did manage to get a number of our neighbors here this evening, so thank you for letting us the opportunity to be here. So, so every drainage system, as far as I know, has two components. One is input and the other one is output. Be it, again, I'm a physician, be it the human body, there is input and output. And it looks like this plan addressed the input, but not so much the output. And specifically, we live on 24, we also own Chapin 16, and this main drain bowl, I think that's the right term for it, does malfunction very frequently, as the honorable council member mentioned before. That's been an issue for years, and for a number of years. I think many of our neighbors can attest to that. There is a common flooding, and the idea of adding more volume of water draining into this particular hole doesn't sound right. I think before you add more input, you have to really address the output to make sure the output is appropriate and actually can handle this volume of water. So I think that before this respective committee maybe approve this plan, I think that the output issue should be addressed. And you know, there are ways to do that. I'm not a civic engineer professional, but I think that we have to be assured as residents of Chapin Road that the output issue is addressed, fixed before we permit additional input.
Mr. Bagley, do you have comments about that?
Yeah, so here's an overall view of what's happening. The red dot represents the subdivision where the 2-lot subdivision is. And then downstream here, this heavy red line, it's the box culvert of Hammond Brook. This is that system that goes cross-country and eventually comes into the 3-pond system at City Hall. So we believe that this box culvert, which is 4 feet wide and, 4 feet high and 9 feet wide, has the capacity for this additional flow. The other thing that we're going to require is that the contractor do a closed circuit TV inspection between the culvert and the last manhole that you see right here where my cursor is. So we want to make sure that there's no blockage or any damage to that pipe. And if that's the case, they should be able to tie in without a problem. And also, if there is any damage or if there's a capacity issue, that pipe would also have to be replaced, which is a small short section.
So I appreciate the answer. And I said, yeah, I believe, I think that we neighbors, we know the reality. I mean, there's, you know, there is the drawing board and then the reality. The reality is that this, as mentioned before, this main drain hole is, does not handle the current volume of water. The street is commonly being flooded. The water getting to the backyard, sometimes to basement. So there is an issue. I mean, evidently, reality, and again, our neighbors can speak and attest to that. The current system does not capable of handling the amount of current water. So how it's going to handle more water?
So right now you have only two catch basins in front of your property. And when I was out there today, the basin to the right of the screen was clogged with leaves. I don't know if you could see that photo there. So this catch basin right here, believe it or not, there's a catch basin underneath all that debris. So the leaves and everything have to be cleaned off all these basins. We would hope the homeowners or their landscaper would take care of that. Also, street sweeping is going on so that eventually every road in the city will be swept. But the homeowners you should do due diligence. If I lived in front of this, I would make sure that catch basin is clean and open all the time so you get good positive flow to it. And it could be that this catch basin needs cleaning. I believe there's over like 23,000 catch basins in the city. We try to clean at least half of them every year. So it's a big task that we have to undertake. But if the catch basin does need cleaning, it will be cleaned out and the line will be flushed out. And I could reach out to the utilities division to have that scheduled prior to any work that's being done out there.
Thank you, but Michael, Victor, our neighbor, I don't know if he's here, and myself do actually put some rubber boots and we go out and clean the drains from leaves. So you're right, I mean, if there are leaves, it's not gonna drain. I think the rationale, the logical thing to do is first to fix the output before we permit more input, more volume of water. And that's at least, I think, most of the neighbors' opinion here.
I'm just wondering if, I mean, I had no idea, but if connecting the sump pumps to the drainage system,
That's what it works.
Would add more water, yes.
but it would at least keep it from the street, it would go into the system as opposed to.
Right, but it's still gonna accumulate in that
Yeah,
particular.
we weren't allowed to do that. We had a
Yeah.
sump pump. They wouldn't let us send it to the city. They didn't wanna have to, pay for that extra water. We had to create something that would absorb the water.
Uh-huh.
So I'm confused by that's.
Well, keep in mind, they're gonna be pumping to a drain line, not a sanitary sewer line. That's illegal. This is the drain line. They takes the surface water from the street, gets it into the pipe system, gets into the culverts, and then eventually to the brooks, and then it discharges to the Charles River. So keep in mind that some pumps are not gonna be running 24 hours a day. They'll be cycling. So after the rain event is over, the rain subsides, some pumps kick in every once in a while. So the main drain itself drains out, but when the sumps kick in, the water will flow from the individual properties to the drain line. So we believe that there should be no issue.
Clarification.
Councilor Jennifer?
If I could just clarify, Mr. Daglian, would you repeat for us, please, the diameter of the pipe that the drainage will go into?
Yes, so the receiving culvert is 5 feet. No, I'm sorry, it's 4 feet by 9 feet wide. And the pipe that there will be extending is a 1 foot diameter pipe to the end of the driveway.
So there's plenty of that the issue is not capacity, the issue is debris.
It could be more than likely because what I saw out there today, the catch basin was like loaded to the grate with all debris, leaves, twigs, things like that. So that's got to be cleaned out, pumped out, and then the line should be flushed out.
So why don't I call on, we have one more person who wants to speak and then we'll come back
Comment back here too.
and ask questions. Okay, let me call on Mr. Edward Spurhan. It is hard to see from back here. Would you like to speak now, Mr. Spurhan?
Yes, guys, thank you. So my name is Edmund Spurhan. I'm an engineer that works a lot in Newton. I work with John quite a bit. Actually, he reviews a lot of plans that I do. And I was contacted by one of the abutters yesterday. So I'm not as familiar with this plan as I would like to be. And the first thing that they have requested, they asked, I assume they're here to talk for themselves, but they have requested an extension of this meeting so I can get time to look at the documents. I don't know if that's possible, but that's what they have requested. John, can I ask you a question? So that culvert that's making its way down to City Hall, is there much of a topographical difference? Is there much difference in topography between upon the City Hall and where those catch basins are?
Without having exact figures, I would say it's probably a couple of feet.
Okay.
It's a large capacity. It's a large
right.
capacity.
And I'm looking at this plan. So there must be many catch basins lower than the catch basins on Chapin Street, that if it was a capacity issue of the brook, of the culvert, that those would be overflowing first before the catch basins on Chapin Street.
That's correct.
But I don't know if it's okay to be extended or not. But that's certainly something I would like to walk with you if possible. Now, when I was out there, like you, first thing I noticed is there's no catch basins because they're buried. And then I took a look at the plans last night, and I see that the existing roadway on Chapin Street, I mean, it's a very long run with no catch basins. So I would suggest if the city or if the developer is putting in the line, and if there is this issue, I would suggest that more catch basins are put in and connected to that line. And that gets the water underground and into the line as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I noticed is there's no curbs out there. So any water is coming against the grass median, and it's eroding the grass median. So that's able to pull the silt and debris or whatever into the catch basin. Now, I'm not saying that the developer has to pay for that or anything, but I was asked to look at the issue, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of what the issue is. And again, like someone spoke tonight, they said that there is a pool of water that ponds here. Now, if we can be sure that the culvert going to City Hall is not at capacity, well then, good. Then it's something that can be dealt with between the existing catch basins that we're looking at and the new development. But if we're not sure that it's not at capacity, that culvert, well then it's a different ballgame, because clearly we're bringing more flow into it.
Mr. Spurn, just to be clear, you're not the contractor for Betsy Harper. You've been asked by one of the neighbors to look into this. Is that what?
Yes, that's correct. I'm an engineer. I work in the city. I own my own company, but I work privately in the city of Newton all the time. I'm very familiar with John, and it just happened that an abutter asked me yesterday to look at this, and I stopped what I was doing to come and look at it because the meeting was tonight, and I just wanted to give my 10 cents for her.
Could you give us your address, Mr. Spurn? We just need.
Sure. Yeah, 80 Jewett Street.
Okay.
I would just want another thing, John. So yes, there are proposed catch basins, but the proposed catch basins are on the proposed road extension. They're not on the old part of the road, from what I've seen. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the plans again to give you 100% accurate.
No problem. But that's from what I've seen. Again, I'm on this for 24 hours, and obviously a lot less because I had to sleep as well. But
Okay, are you all set?
I think I'm all set. Yeah.
Okay, good. Go ahead, sir.
I'm David Dagg at 44 Chapin. And I'm just a layman, and I think I've been negligent, but I haven't really reported this as promptly as I should have, except to my neighbors. I can show some pictures that I take of the flooding that happens on Chapin Road regularly, just in normal rain conditions, where the grades seem to be to just untrained eye clear. But you can see that it extends hundreds of feet, a lot of standing water, and these aren't extreme rain conditions; these are just normal rain conditions. And I don't know if this is something that you have another picture that shows it clear, but I have pictures that show a lot of water, and so I don't know whether I probably should have brought this up outside of this proceeding, since it's actually a problem with the existing systems. But I just wanted to point that out, so I think it might be relevant to this discussion. Here.
Mr. Dagley, is DPW aware of this flooding issue? Has this come up before?
I reached out to the utilities division and I didn't get a response as far as flooding, but I'll reach out to them again to find out if they have any records of any incidences like that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like I should register that tomorrow or something. Who do I contact for that?
We'll give you the.
Okay.
I missed your name, if you saw it.
Is it DAG, D-A-G-G?
Would he contact the head of the utilities division? Who should he contact?
You can contact me and I'll send all the information over to utilities.
Okay, so John Dagley, and we can give you a number.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Is there other people? Yes, sir.
Raphael Bruckner, 51 Chapin Road. I guess I'm curious when the last time someone was down in that culvert, just because the brook, Hammond Brook through Newton Center Playground, I mean, again, for a normal rain event, There's the potential for that brook to breach the stone wall. I mean, the level of that brook, I mean, I know that's a large culvert, but the level of that brook is coming up pretty close to the height of the over to, I guess, close to 200-year-old embankment wall. It seems like, and then you'll see on the grate that's covering the opening to the culvert, debris will be up to the top during a more significant, not a catastrophic event, but in a more significant rain event, debris comes right up to the top. So if that is still an unimpeded 4 feet by 9 feet, that's troubling. That's we're not going to be able to drain this area if that's an unimpeded culvert and it's not drained. We're at we're at the maximum capacity already. So I think that's troubling. And then I think the other point is that there's the issue of a rain event or a snow melt combined with rain that could produce God forbid a more significant hurricane that drops a few inches of rain. That's that kind of peak flowage could create a significant backup. But as John mentioned, groundwater is at the level of the surface, often at the lower lot of the two. And that was known, that was made clear by the engineers of the previous petitioner before the zoning was altered, or the zoning board voted to subdivide. That's not a surprise to anybody. So to build a house with the foundation, I mean, is there going to be a pump under that house pumping continuously? I mean, and adding not just during peak rain events, but like continuous groundwater pumping, just so someone can have one house. I mean, two houses, but yeah, there's one would be really low. Maybe the other could have a dry basement. I don't know, or with the normal sump pump behavior. There's certainly one that would be like, underwater for much of the year with continuous pumping. Is that what we're expecting, to put continuous flow into this 200-year-old infrastructure plus, expecting this aging infrastructure to deal with, the increasing likelihood of significant catastrophic rainfall events? That doesn't seem like the city is prepared, has the capacity. The existing infrastructure has the capacity, and that the city is able to do, remediate this issue for one housing lot. Thank you.
We don't have the answer to that question.
I think that train has left the station.
Yeah, I've got a gentleman over here and then I'll come to you. One more. Okay, so.
Yeah, I'm Josh Goodman, 37 Chapin Road. And just one point of clarification. I mean, I heard someone say that some pumps sort of run intermittently and that shouldn't create a capacity problem. But I know for at least a couple of houses, it's not that intermittent. Intermittent is every couple of seconds for a couple of months, every spring. So there's constant water being pumped out of basements. And I find it, I guess I'm just questioning, what happens if somebody doesn't pay to connect to the discharge line? I mean, it sort of begs the question, why are we doing that if we wouldn't be in a worse position? If we didn't go forward and pay for that.
So are you saying you think everybody should be required or they shouldn't be?
No, I'm saying why is it even an option now? Because it never was. And what happens if people choose not to?
Yeah.
I mean, to his point, we've got all that additional groundwater going into the neighborhood basically, and I just wonder what happens if we don't. Are we being put in a position where we have to? Is this a hostage situation in that sense?
Doesn't sound like you're requiring that, am I right, Mr. Daglian?
Yeah, I mean, common sense would say to tie in, because if you don't tie in, you're just gonna recirculate the water. You're gonna pump out onto your lawn, the water's gonna seep into the ground, it's gonna get back into your basement. So your pump is gonna be constantly running. So
We
now,
all have done that.
you let me finish, please.
Yep.
If you connect to the overflow connection, now your sump pump is discharging to a closed circuit system. The water goes away, the water level drops, and you're getting less water in your basement because you have that outlet connected to a pipe system that's going to take the water off your site. You're not constantly recycling the water back. So that's the benefit.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, our systems always have done that. They've always recycled. It spits out onto the lawn, it seeps back into the ground, and you just keep doing that until eventually the ground absorbs it. But what I'm saying is it gonna get worse as a result of this additional groundwater in the tune of lots?
It shouldn't, because you're pumping the water that's collected in your sump into the overflow connection that's taking the water away, going downstream.
It's not my question. The question is, what if we don't connect to it?
If you don't connect, your situation is going to stay the same.
It's not gonna get worse?
If I knew that, I could win the lottery. I could pick the lottery numbers. But I could say with certain, your situation will stay the same.
You're certain? That's what I heard. I'm
But-
done.
But the fact is that all this water is gonna go to the drain manhole between 16 and 17, am I correct?
Yes, and to the big box culvert.
Right, and this drain, 16, 17 drain manhole is malfunctioning, it's working, it's overflow very frequently. So what's the point of bringing the water from the new 2 houses and some pumps from other houses to that point, which does not function, does not work?
Well, sir, that's why we want to have a closed circuit TV inspection of the line. Have the camera go into the pipe, look at it, make sure there's no cracks in the pipe. And when you look in the closed circuit TV inspection, if you could visualize a cross section of a round pipe, you would actually see the flow line in the pipe. So that tells you historically that's how much water has been in that pipe flowing in that capacity. If it's all the way to the top, then you know there's a problem. All the CCTV videos that I've watched over the past 25 years, the water line is barely at between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, like half the capacity of the pipe. So if that's the situation here, we should be fine. If that's not the situation, then that pipe would have to be enlarged before it gets to the Hammond Pond culvert.
So if that's, again, I'm in the business of diagnosis, if that's the same, I mean, everything looks great, but still, we know for a fact, empirically, we know that it doesn't work, so we just leave it as is?
No, so like, let's say you're going to do a colonoscopy, you find there's a blockage in the intestine. So the doctor will go in there, take out that blockage, and now you have more capacity. So if this pipe does not have enough capacity, we'll have to make the contractor put in a larger diameter pipe.
And is there any way to test the culvert, because it seems like that could be the same, just you're not getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah, as I said, I'm reaching out to the utilities division. I'm sure they have records of that culvert. And I know they did cleaning of the culvert when the City Hall ponds were excavated and the excess siltation removed. That culvert for, I believe, a couple 100 feet was flushed out and cleaned. And I saw how clean the culvert was.
Okay, so sir, let the other folks have a chance to speak. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, John?
No, I was just going to say that I was able to see like within 50 feet into the culvert with the flashlight. I didn't walk the entire length, so.
Okay, so both of you want to speak?
Yeah, I can speak.
Okay.
Actually,
All I wanted to say was, shouldn't this all be determined
Could you just
before?
tell us your name and address, sorry?
Jacqueline Lopiccolo, 132 Homer Street. Shouldn't this all be addressed before a permit is given?
Yes, I think so. I think we're gonna vote. Yeah.
sure, and I'm Chris Enra, I'm also 132 Homer Street. The catch basins, the storm drains for the drain extension are on the Chapin Road extension. They are basically at the foot of the extension based on the plans. How will that help the homes downstream of that? Because the assumption would be that it's not going to catch 100% of runoff, right? Those two storm drains physically cannot catch 100% of the runoff. So there will be more groundwater running off to the rest of the road, which has no storm drains until 1617 Chapin Road. So there will be a net, gain of groundwater on Chapin Road, which already floods. The second point to that is, it's pointed out that these storm drains do clog. What happens when those clog? What's preventing those from clogging? There are two houses, excuse me, two houses and a new road extension that's going to increase the runoff, and it's being drained by two storm drains. If one of them clogs, then there's a huge influx of water. So, I just don't understand how the two storm drains at the base of the road extension benefit anything downstream if that's a higher elevation.
Do you have any comment to that, Mr. Dagler?
Yeah, when we were going through the process of the public hearing with the Board of Survey, there was no indication that there was a street flooding. So at that time, additional catch basins were not proposed, but it's a simple fix where a couple of catch basins could be put at locations that are problematic. A survey would have to be done by the applicant, so we know exactly where that low point is, and a couple of catch basins would be added to the mainline extension.
Do you want to speak again?
Yeah, I just want to put something in the record. I realize that the train has already left the station. But I think procedurally, it would have been better if city involved our group. At the time, it was making the decision to cut up that lot into 2 additional lots. And because there's issues we're not even discussing right now about the fact that it's too narrow and the fire engines can't even get in. And so a lot of us were distressed by the way this whole thing was accomplished in our town. And I know you don't have to have him answer, but just understand that sentiment is in this room.
So one thing I'd like to understand is, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this, but who is the Board of Survey? Are they the Newton group, or is that a group outside of Newton?
The planning board acts as the Board of Survey, so they wear 2 hats. And
Okay,
this whole subdivision was advertised with public notification, and notifications had gone out to the abutters by the applicant back in 2023.
so in 2023, there was a public hearing, but nobody came?
I don't remember who came exactly, but I know there was some input, and the majority of it was like traffic and these are too many houses for this site.
Okay.
There was a significant conversation of the water issue, but it was not taken with any serious weight.
Okay.
And also, I think that what I'm saying is that once the city came up with this proposal to allow the 2 houses to be built and to put the burden of the drainage on the new owners, it would have been good to hear what we felt about that, because that's the proposal we're all living with. It's not somebody trying to subdivide, which could have been done in a lot of different ways.
Okay, so it feels like there's a lot of questions that we don't know the answers to quite yet. And does someone want to make a motion to hold this item? You want to?
I
did have my
yes.
hand up. Oh,
Yes, let's finish any conversation.
okay, so
here.
if both of you actually had questions or comments, so Councilor, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so first of all, I agree we should hold this item because there are a lot of questions that have come up in the conversation that we've had this evening, particularly with the other engineer. The discussion about actually making some significant improvements to the stormwater infrastructure on the street. It sounds like this street has had a lot of has a high water table, so it's always been wet. And initially my thinking was if everyone connected, it would actually pull water out of the homes into the storm drain. As long as their capacity would likely improve that. Yeah. But there's more to it, obviously. So I would like to have our engineers go take a look at that street, and we should also, as you said, Mr. Daglian, we inspect the pipes to make sure we know exactly what the capacity is. You know, because as has been said already, we're getting much more significant storm events, rainwater events. That's part of the global warming that we're experiencing, so we have to also plan and think for that. So, those are some of my concerns, and the fact that there are so many neighbors here, this evening that with concerns. And it sounds like there's some things that should be done before we make a decision. So we'd like to get more information, from you and have you come back. That would be my preference.
Councilor Getz?
Yeah, the only other thought that I was having was beyond the topography. It seemed as if someone was suggesting that there was quite a bit of.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking to the
Oh,
engineer.
Speak louder, so she can
That there was quite a bit of topography and there was also quite a bit of unstructured, meaning that there was silting going on, you know, in terms of the catch basins. So I think the even maybe more than 2 additional catch basins are needed. But I'm also wondering about like the actual topography of the street. And whether or not, you know, if there's any remediation that we can do in terms of sidewalks and or, you know, we did see.
It's gully, actually.
Yeah.
Because on one side on the playground side, it's, you come down this way and then coming down from Homer is quite a drop before you get to Chapin. So we're really in a gully.
Okay. Yeah, and then, okay, we're not gonna, I don't think we should close the public hearing tonight.
No, leave it open.
So it's always one, get some more answers, but let's have this woman speak and then the 2 of you.
I was just wondering, I don't know if this is within reason, but would it be within reason for once the city does what they have to do for us as a group to have an independent person verify calculations, measurements, whatever assessment is done after that?
Well, privately as a neighborhood.
Sure, yeah, sure, but would we be given time?
Can't pay for it.
Yeah,
I would too.
At that expense.
but that all takes time, right? So as I mean, Spurgeon said that.
Yes, well, I don't know the timing yet. We'll certainly want to make time for everyone to get the information that they need.
But there's a petition online saying this is gonna start on April 3rd or something.
No.
Not if we're gonna hold it
Tonight,
tonight.
no.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Councilor Kelly and then Councilor Greenberg.
Thanks, to that point, and to yours, you know, it is concerning to me that things get to this point, to this table, to this committee, and none of us had any idea about it. And some of your neighbors didn't know, and there's something about the communication of a process like this, about how a subdivision gets approved. Not necessarily with input of all the neighbors, certainly not with the city council, who now has to make a determination about trying to provide adequate drainage on the site, and it's frustrating, and I'm frustrated that it ends here. When we weren't involved in any of the previous decisions. I'm a landscape architect and site planner by profession, and I'm not sure this was such a good site to approve for subdivision. Frankly, you know, I'm not necessarily qualified to say that because I don't have all the details on it, but backing it up some and a time pressure, excuse me, like she was talking about, is not something that we should respond to. I, for one, would appreciate seeing an outside independent analysis of the numbers that come up. I think that's very helpful. We do that in many projects. Petitioners or their abutters or someone else is in charge of that, and perhaps as a group, the Chapin Street neighbors might get together and do that. I would like to see those numbers just to counterbalance what we're gonna end up getting back from the city or possibly from Mr. Spruhan. But I'm a little embarrassed, and I feel badly that we're all in this room on this project tonight without good understanding of the situation, and I apologize for our lack of a role in it. Thanks.
Councilor Danberg?
Yes, and I want to build on the comments that have been made here. I'm in agreement with all of them. I have known for, I'm gonna say at least 20 years, that there has been a problem on this street on a regular basis with flooding. It's in a low spot. I'm not surprised to hear that we've got a 24-inch or even a 20-inch depth of before you hit your water table. And I think that's a very shallow amount, and I'm not surprised that the sump pumps are pouring water onto the lawns, going back into the basements and going back into the sump pumps to go back on the lawn over and over again. And I think that is something that we should help the neighbors to try and solve. Because if an entire neighborhood has that issue, then let's see what we can do if it means more catch basins, whatever the engineering is that is required, not just to make sure that this doesn't get worse, but that it gets better for the entire neighborhood. I would also like to say, for the benefit of the neighbors, and maybe this is sort of a public service announcement. I live at the foot of Chase. I live on Chase Street. It's at the foot of the Andover Newton Theological Hill. And all of the water that comes down that hill comes onto my street. And some of it goes down Herrick and the rest of it comes onto my street. And when we bought our house a number of years ago, it was a constant problem. And we resolved that problem by putting in curbs. Because prior to that, there was no way that we could get that our husbands could get out often enough to clear those catch basins, because the catch basins were always full of debris, just like that one.
In their rubber boots.
And it's not the fault of the neighbors that they don't get out often enough to do those catch basins. One way that you as neighbors could really help yourselves is if, I think, we did this probably 20 years ago and it was a few $1,000s. I think it's, I don't know, how much is it? It depends on how many linear feet of property you have. But boy, does that help.
And you can pay it over time.
And you can pay it, you can put it over, you can pay it over 20 years. There's no interest. And it's called a betterment. And you petition the city to do a betterment. And if everybody on the street does it, that problem will pretty much go away.
How did one cent go away?
It went away for us.
Why does it go?
It channels the water and it does not allow all of the debris to get into the catch basins. So that,
Okay.
when the time comes, I would move to hold.
Okay, so I think the time has come, but I just wanna say that I think that the city is doing. I mean, perhaps they weren't aware of all of the issues of flooding, but I think the proposal the city has made to the petitioner to ask them to create stubs, not only to do the work for their problem, their subdivision, but also to create stubs along the line so that everybody else can connect to it. I think the city is doing the neighborhood a favor on the back of the petitioner, so I do think that there was some
should
thought
improve
here.
the situation for everybody.
Yeah, so,
One more.
yes.
comment, that's it. I really appreciate the sentiment and from the two councilwomen, particularly the fact, acknowledging the fact that it's unfortunate that the planning board conducted their affairs in the manner they did. We're all sort of stuck with their the result of their report process, as is the petitioner. Who is clearly not interested, aware of these issues when she bought the land. Is there a possibility that the council can, and the city is willing to do something? Is there a chance? This is a park-like piece of property or two pieces of property next to the park. Is there a chance that the city is able to continue it and
I'm suggesting they buy it like they did Webster Woods, the city to purchase the property as open space.
It's a natural space adjacent to public property.
I spoke to her.
Ask the mayor, yeah.
Okay, I think there's a lot of issues that were raised tonight, a lot of questions. Katie's gonna write it all up for us. And you're gonna be in touch with John Daglian.
I'll talk to you after.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I guess you're having a motion to hold.
Yeah, I will do a motion to hold, and I would hope and expect that, at the end of this process, assuming that these buildings get built, that the situation that the neighbors now deal with on a regular basis will improve and certainly not just stay the same, not get any worse. We're looking to an improvement, and I think that as long as we make sure that the city gets out there, the number of catch basins, they make the determination, and they can do this, they make these calculations all the time. This is not the first street that has this issue. But I think that ideally, and I would expect that your situation as neighbors would improve after all is said and done.
I second your motion to hold.
So.
And I move to hold, yes.
Yeah, so we'll be holding this and doing some research. And we don't know this the second time, right? So I think you could be in touch with, would you wanna, if they give you you have their addresses, is there a way of us notifying them? When this is coming back?
Do you want us to sign up an email list that might be a lot easier
That
to
would
send
be,
out?
that would be
great.
wonderful, if you all
And you
could.
could go through your Ward 6 counselor, Vicki Danberg, who's on the committee, she could help be the conduit of communication.
I'm happy to
between
do that.
the
So,
Chapin and Homework
Before
people
you all leave tonight, could you leave your email addresses on a list? Yeah, and that way we can be in touch with you when it comes up again.
And we'll be given more than a week's notice.
Well, it certainly won't be before April 9th, is the next meeting, so it won't be, certainly won't be before that.
Sounds like you can.
Quite a bit of work.
Right here.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like names, address,
Yeah.
email and telephone maybe?
Yeah,
Email should be an option, then. Yeah.
Yeah, do email, name, address and phone number.
John, what's your phone number so I can give it to this gentleman?
Yeah, 617-796-1023. That's my direct line.
023. 796.
Yeah, just a comment, so as you can see on the plan, Chapin Road and Stafford Road sort of come together in this little Y situation. But no, I don't think anyone from Stafford Road is getting this information, but they probably should be. Because it would, the houses, you know, the houses are at the end.
yeah.
So I don't know why you
Yeah.
suggest it does.
I,
Yeah. I don't, yeah.
Well, if you know people, they do it within a certain distance of, as in the butter. It's by however many feet.
How-
And our clerk is saying they don't live close enough, but this is a good time for neighborhood networking, if you know people on that road to try and
So
spread.
we should just forward the email to them or something.
Yeah, sorry.
anybody who would like to be on the email chain.
And as somebody said that the public hearing stays open, but we don't notice it again, and I chair the land use committee and we deal with this all the time, people who didn't know how to stay connected, didn't know it was coming back. And missed the final and second decisions, and city doesn't notice after.
Well, that's why we're gonna have this list.
Exactly, but I'm just saying, we don't do it typically, just, sometimes I feel frustrated. Money.
Still a lot of work.
Okay,
Money.
we should move along.
Sorry.
You're gonna collect the names and email addresses and so forth. Please put your name and address on there. And we voted to hold. Did we vote yet? We made a motion to hold. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so this is held. We will try and keep you informed about when it will come up the next time, and Mr. Daglian's gonna take it back to the utilities division and see what he can find out.
Very good, thank you.
We get the independent review. That happened before the next meeting.
I think we have to talk to Mr. Daglian about, if you wanna do your own independent review, you should get started on it right away.
Well,
That's
we
what-
can't until we have numbers from them.
Be in touch with John Daglian.
Yeah.
He'll tell you, okay, now. You want his number?
And by the way, the city has the 311 that you are reporting.
Yes.
You guys must have
record of it, because I reported several times about floods. 2311, and I attached.
Do they
photos
close
as well.
when they, usually they give you information like, we've solved your problem,
I
it's
know,
been
but it's
closed.
sitting on the server, right?
So, but did they ever call you back and say this situation's been solved?
Nobody ever does.
I don't think it's, I don't think they call people.
I don't know, they email them,
They
they
email
get an email and it
That
says,
squirrel
we
just
can't fix it, or we will.
But if we are looking for photos and looking about complaints, this is gonna be a
Okay,
place
all
where it
right,
can
we'll
be
look
found.
into that, we'll look into that. Thank you very much for coming tonight, please leave your contact information. And we will see you again soon.
Thank you for receiving this, because we know that there's a lot of tension. Yes, we appreciate
And
it.
we're glad we have the opportunity to provide a way for you neighbors to get together.
It's great to see it's a good neighbors come together.
Yes, we're a good neighborhood, we get.
Earlier time, that would be helpful.
Well, hopefully we can do that.
Yeah.
You should see our canoe meetups.
I see each other in the tree sightings.
Yep, that was a good.
Okay, so we're gonna go, while you're leaving your name and addresses, we're gonna go on to the next item, okay.
But be sure to leave that shit with us.
So this is 5825, authorization to spend $750,000. Toronto the Mayor requesting authorization to expend the sum of $750,000 from the current year's stormwater reserve to fund engineering services and design work for stormwater control measures in support of the city's phosphorus control plan, as required by the EPA under the municipal separate stormwater system permit. Commissioner Sullivan, I believe you're on.
I am. Good evening, counselors. This is a request for $750,000 that will fund design and permitting for the first 4 projects in phase 1 of the phosphorus control plan as required by the EPA under our MS4 permit. As you know, we have applied for $17.5 million for construction funding through the state's revolving fund loan program for these projects. We will be back to the council to accept the loan if we receive it and to go through the design of each of the projects. We'll be using Wood and Curran for the design and permitting work. Their scope of work includes survey, design, permitting, and meeting. We're using Wood and Curran because they developed our phosphorus control plan. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for Commissioner Sullivan? So this is for design and engineering.
Permitting,
And what?
design and permitting.
Design permitting. And which areas where are you starting?
I believe we're gonna start with the Davis School on Waltham Street. And East Side Parkway, there are 2 projects, 2 potential projects. They include the dog park and probably about 200 feet down from the dog park, going towards the Cabot School on the edge of the park.
The people who use that dog park would be very happy to hear you say that it's a dog park, because it is not. But we all know everyone uses it.
Everyone uses it as a dog park. It's one of the more popular sites.
That's okay. Questions?
Yeah.
Councilor Getz.
So just even in terms of where you're getting started, is there gonna be a global plan? Is it gonna go from, a global, sort of overview kind of plan, and then you're gonna start doing segments?
I'm happy to send you the link. We have the entire plan. It identifies hundreds of projects.
Okay, right, but in the selection of this one specific site based on.
So we're going for as much phosphorus reduction as possible. We want the biggest bang for the buck. So the larger the project, the more phosphorus, the closer we get to our goal of eliminating 1,300 pounds by 2028.
Any other questions? Councilor Marion. Ms. Sullivan, I was just wondering, how much phosphorus removal do you think this round will be successful in removing?
That's a loaded question. Davis, it looks like 60 pounds is the estimate. The East Side Parkways combined, I want to say we're about 40 pounds. So probably about 120 pounds of phosphorus.
Wow.
So
And why,
that is an estimate.
why the Davis School in particular? It's a lot there. And Waltham Street, did you say?
Yes, why they're particular?
Yeah.
It is one of the biggest reductions of phosphorus.
Because it's got a huge.
The field and the
Oh.
soils and the ability to put in a larger retention basin.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that makes sense. And East Side Parkway, that's close to me.
Closer to me.
Close.
I know, well, it's Ward 2, but half of it's Ward 1.
No.
Yes, it is. East Side Parkway? Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, what is it about East Side?
Well, the people across the street from the school, the park is working.
Really? It's okay, don't type it.
Okay, that's I was just wondering also, how is that the biggest thing for the FUB too, for East Side Parkway? I'm just curious.
So it's we have to do a feasibility and test borings for each of these projects to
Yeah.
identify if the soils are appropriate, if the groundwater is low enough to support the retention basin. And these are sites that can support this.
Okay, that's what she think. They all can support a retention basin.
Right now, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for Commissioner Sullivan?
Right, thank you, everybody.
And yes, thank you. Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, I think, do you have another?
No, I was just basically, she answered, but it's like, just such a awkward podcast.
It is, that's the way it is, it's inches, it's like, the improvements are by inches. So, do we have a motion to approve? I'll make, making it, oh, no, it's you. Hey, okay, council areas move approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Extensions? Okay, so that's approved.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, you too.
It's like, pop it in.
Good night. Are we
Good
adjourned?
night.
I think we're adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
There's nothing on the other side. Good night, Council Gentile.